Ever imagine being like the adult a student really goes to for advice and stuff, not
Yeah.
just schoolwork?
Right, that trusted figure.
Yeah, helping them through all those tough years.
Huge impact.
That's a big part of being an educational counselor, guiding them towards success in, well, everything. So today, we're diving deep into what that really means.
With some help, of course.
Exactly. Using these awesome resources from RoleCatcher.com.
Love their stuff.
Me too. They've got this Educational Counselor, the complete career guide, which is super in-depth. We'll also hit on their guides for interview prep and making your job search way smoother. But first, what do educational counselors actually do daily?
The guide uses this phrase, practical and emotional support, which, okay, true.
But a little vague.
Right. You got to picture it. Imagine a student, crazy smart, but they just can't make friends.
Ouch, yeah, bro.
Or another kid aces every test prep, but in the actual exam, frozen.
The pressure gets to them.
Totally. And that's where you come in. It goes beyond, here's how to study.
So what's an example of that beyond part?
See, that test anxiety kid, you might be working with their parents figuring out the root cause.
Interesting.
Collaborating with teachers for a less stressful testing environment.
Oh, sir.
Maybe even referring them to, like, a specialist if it's deeper than just school stuff. It's that whole picture.
That whole picture thinking is key. And speaking of seeing the bigger picture,
Wait, were we talking about the industry trends section now?
we are. It talks about how fast education's changing, especially with tech.
Which is constant, by the way.
Right. So put yourself in the counselor's shoes. How comfy are you with online platforms, connecting with students that way?
It's almost mandatory now, right?
Seriously.
Imagine trying to help a kid with cyberbullying if you're not even comfy online.
That's a good point. Is that in the guide?
Yeah. RoleCatcher says 85% of job postings they looked at mentioned tech skills.
Wow, 85%.
It's not just knowing the software, it's how tech affects their lives. Big difference.
Totally. Okay, time to get real for a sec.
Hitting you with the pros and cons now.
Yes. But it's not enough to just hear them. It's, how would this pro or con fit with me?
Self-awareness is huge. The guide even lists emotional burnout as a real risk.
Which makes sense.
Right. Imagine a student going through a family crisis or worse.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
That takes a toll.
That's heavy stuff. Does RoleCatcher have advice for those situations?
Definitely. They say supervision is huge. Having a support system, someone to debrief with.
Like a mentor, almost.
Exactly. A more experienced counselor. It can make or break you in those tough emotional moments.
That sounding board, that reminder you're not alone. So important. Okay, so you're into this career path. Awesome. But how do you become an educational counselor?
Right. It's not magic.
Thankfully. And RoleCatcher actually gives practical steps, which I appreciated.
It's not just about the degree, though that's obviously important.
Gotta start somewhere.
They emphasize diverse experience. Volunteering at, say, a youth center.
Oh, okay, see.
Working with kids from all backgrounds, maybe tutoring. Stuff that shows you connect with young people.
So not just what you know, but how you apply Wyatt, who you've learned from.
Exactly. They've even got this tool that analyzes job descriptions, pulls out the exact skills employers want.
Wait, seriously, how does that even work?
It's really cool. You can upload your resume, and it compares your skills to the job posting.
Oh, that's really helpful.
Right. And they have over 120,000 practice interview questions.
120,000, that's insane. But also amazing. Are they organized in any way?
Yeah, they're categorized by career and skill set, so it's tailored to what you're going for.
Okay, that makes way more sense.
Good.
Like a sneak peek into the interviewer's mind.
Exactly.
While prepping for those tough questions is key, the guide mentions something else interesting. Educational counselors often work evenings and weekends.
Oh yeah, that stood out to me too.
Should be available for families.
It shows dedication, but also makes you think about work-life balance.
Definitely. It's about finding that balance.
It's a tough one, and RoleCatcher gets that. They actually give advice on setting those boundaries early in your career.
Oh, like what?
Things like setting specific work hours, communicating them clearly to families.
So important. Setting those expectations from the start. So you can be the best counselor, but not burn out. Okay, we've covered a lot of parts. Day-to-day stuff, those tech skills you didn't realize mattered,
Right.
burnout potential, and then RoleCatcher's surprisingly specific advice.
It's impressive how much they cover.
Totally. And it's like they've thought of everything for different career stages, too.
Remember how they analyzed job postings?
Yeah.
They broke down the responsibilities and skills for each level, from entry level all the way up.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It'd be fascinating to see how the role changes, what you'd be doing years down the line.
Let's say you land your first job. Mix of excited and terrified, right?
Oh, totally. It's like, I can't believe I'm getting paid for this, mixed with don't screw it up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
RoleCatcher says early on, you're often that first point of contact for students needing help.
Wow, so you're the one they go to.
Think about that. A student comes in, maybe they're being bullied, grade slipping, just having a rough time.
Heavy stuff.
They trust you enough to open up.
That's a lot of responsibility for someone starting out. Does RoleCatcher have advice for handling that?
They highlight active listening, not just hearing, but understanding the emotions behind the words.
Oh, that's deeper than just tell me what's wrong.
Right. They even give phrases to build that rapport like, it sounds like you're going through a lot, or I hear how important this is to you. Simple, but powerful.
Creating that safe space. Once they do open up, what then? What does an entry-level counselor deal with that?
RoleCatcher talks about creating individualized education programs, or IEPs, for students who need extra support.
IEPs, okay.
You're working with teachers, parents, sometimes specialists, to make a plan for that student's needs.
So it's not just listening and advising, but taking action. But how does the role change as you get more experienced, more leadership?
Definitely. RoleCatcher says at mid-level, you might supervise new counselors, lead workshops, even advocate for policy changes.
Whoa, so your impact gets way bigger than just one school.
Exactly. And this is interesting. When they analyze those senior-level postings,
Yeah, what'd they find?
technical skills still mattered. BUT, there was a huge emphasis on leadership and commitment to social justice.
Oh, wow, so it ties into the bigger picture of education.
Right. Like one posting specifically wanted experience advocating for students with disabilities or from underrepresented backgrounds.
You're not just working in the system, but potentially changing it.
And it's not just formal roles. RoleCatcher found that 90% of counselors they surveyed had a mentor who impacted their career.
90%, that's almost everyone.
It's huge EE. Having that guidance, especially early on, is invaluable.
That sounding board, that person who gets the job's challenges, and then I imagine you become the mentor later on.
It's a cycle. Speaking of which, we keep coming back to this. Working with parents and teachers. It's not just the student, right?
It takes a village, or however that saying goes.
RoleCatcher gives tips for this too. Like
Mm.
with parents, open and frequent communication is key.
Not just when things are bad.
Right. Regular check-ins, celebrating wins, addressing concerns before they're huge.
Building that relationship from day one. What about with teachers? Any tips there?
They say to really understand the classroom context, spend time observing, getting to know the teachers, their struggles.
It's easy to forget they're dealing with a lot too.
Right. When counselors and teachers click, it's the best for the student.
Everyone's on the same team, working towards the same goal. Speaking of which, we haven't even touched on tech's role in all this.
Huge topic. And things are changing so fast.
RoleCatcher had a whole section on it, right?
It did. One big thing is virtual counseling. More and more common now, using Zoom, Google Meet, all that.
Which makes sense, especially after everything the past few years.
It lets you reach students who might not have access otherwise. Distance, mobility issues, whatever.
Or even just comfort level. Some kids might open up more from home.
Totally. And it's not just one-on-one. Group sessions, workshops, even parent education is going online.
Expanding that reach beyond the school building.
And don't forget data. Schools use systems now that track grades, attendance, even social-emotional stuff.
So it's not just guessing anymore.
Right? You can see trends, identify struggling students faster, intervene earlier.
Working smarter, not harder. But tech is just a tool, right?
100%. It can help, but never replace that human connection.
Students need to know there's someone who cares without judgment, there to support them no matter what.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we've focused so much on the students, but what about the counselor's well-being?
That's so true. We've barely scratched the surface of the challenges and rewards of actually being an educational counselor.
RoleCatcher gets it. They have a whole section on self-care.
Good. That's crucial, but often gets overlooked.
When you're dealing with that much emotional weight from others, day after day, you have to take care of yourself.
What kind of self-care tips do they give?
Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. Both at work and in your personal life.
So easy to blur those lines, especially with a job like this.
They say, set specific work hours, stick to them as much as possible, disconnect from emails, calls, all that, when you're off.
That separation is huge, GE, so you can actually recharge and come back refreshed.
And beyond that, find things that bring you JG. Exercise, nature, reading, whatever it is.
Make it a priority, like any other appointment.
Because your well-being is an investment, not a luxury.
Right. And finally, they emphasize asking for support when you need it.
Which is huge EE, whether it's a colleague, mentor, therapist. You're not meant to handle it all alone.
There are people who get it, who want to see you succeed in this field. It's so true, that empty cup thing. You have to take care of yourself to care for others. And RoleCatcher gets that, which I like. They don't just tell you stuff, it's like guidance for the whole journey.
Right. Becoming an educational counselor, it's a big decision. Rewarding, but not easy.
Not just a job, really.
It's dedicating yourself to these kids through some seriously intense years.
It makes you think of those, what do you want to be when you grow up? The talks.
Oh, totally.
Imagine if someone said, I want to help teenagers with all that high school stuff, plus less guide them academically, and fight for better education systems.
That's a lot.
Right. And RoleCatcher's honest about that.
Yeah. They don't sugarcoat the burnout risk, the emotional toll.
But they do balance it with the good stuff.
The rewards are huge. Those aha moments when a student overcomes something, finds a passion.
When you know you made a difference, that's got to be amazing fuel for those tough days.
It really is. And that's what it comes down to. Passion. Skills matter. Qualifications. But without that fire for helping kids,
you won't last.
It's rough out there. So anyone listening, considering this, ask yourself honestly, does my heart light up at the thought of helping these kids through this?
Because if it does, this could be the career for you.
No doubt. And RoleCatcher is a great place to start. The insights, the practical stuff, the self-care focus.
It's like they thought of everything.
They really did a good job. So if you're ready, take that step. Check out the resources, talk to people in the field.
And listen to that inner voice telling you what you're meant for. On that note, we'll leave you with this. Being an educational counselor.
It's an adventure.
Constantly learning, growing, making a difference. Embrace the tough stuff. Celebrate the wins.
Never underestimate the power of education.
Until next time, keep diving deep.